Hello there, everybody. You're welcome along. Your Sunday morning US Open Slice of Golf Weekly is coming at you. Beautiful June Sunday. Sun is shining. You are listening to us live, I hope. Firing questions. We delayed throw in there. A few technical issues on our side, but we hope you're all in. Everybody in. Complain to me on Discord pod chat if you're not. Although you won't have heard me say that, so that doesn't really work. If you're not in, you're not in. You'll get it on podcast very shortly. We have full house. Nathan Murphy, hello to you.
How are you?
Peter Lowry, hello to you, Peter.
Hello, Joe.
And Fionn Davenport. Hello, Fionn.
Hey, Joe.
7:21 Irish time. Your US Open leader, Bryson DeChambeau, is out in the final pairing with Matthew Pavon. And then 10 past 7, the very best of friends, Rory, Patrick, and Joe, get to spend 5.5 hours together. Oh, my goodness. So questions in, we'll get through various things. I did get a tweet saying, what would the likes of a Bob Rotella say to McIlroy about being paired with Cantlay today and how to approach it? And then he says he would suggest getting Shane Lowry on the bank. A lot of get Shane Lowry to be Rory's caddy suggestions over the last couple of weeks. But, I mean, it's going to be fascinating. I suppose on the face of it, Nathan, you've got one of the tour's faster players who likes to get into a rhythm playing with one of the tour's slowest players on a course, which is just going to be slow anyway. And then, they straight up hate each other, I think is the truth. And I wouldn't think Rory and Joe Cav are going to be passing time together. So doesn't bode brilliantly. The one kind of, maybe hope you might have is that the pointy elbows come out and he goes into kind of a hyper-aggressive bubble and gets so focused on sticking it to Cantlay that he doesn't get overly focused on the enormity of winning the major.
Yeah, we'll only know when he sits down for an interview in 3 months and talks about this. And if he's won the US Open, it'll be, yeah, hell yeah. I went to bed on Saturday night thinking, I'm going to show this guy all he's done to me, blocking my path back onto the board, everything that happened at the Ryder Cup. I went out there and I showed him and I showed the world. Or, as you say, that's not really his thought process at all. And it ends up being a long, dull round where he just can't get his own rhythm. There's a bit of frustration in general with Cantlay. It's not particularly friendly. It's a long old day and it just sort of grinds him down. But yeah, I think each one is as likely as the other right now.
Yeah. Peter, you've had that experience of playing with people that you don't like? Routinely, you don't like lots of people.
Many times, and still do. Yeah, look, I'm actually disappointed in this last round, to be honest with you. I for some stupid reason last night I thought that's great, like it's going to be a Rory Bryson, and then realized Matthew Pavon was in earlier than Rory. So I would have much preferred to see Rory play with Bryson. I think we would have had a great Sunday night's entertainment. Rory and Patrick, it'll be a little bit more difficult, I think, for Rory.
Yeah, less than ideal. So, broad thoughts, fellas. We haven't really talked very much. Fionn, give me your overarching thoughts on the US Open, your second favourite major, of course. So has it lived up to your love?
It 100% has. And I think it's also lived up to my love for all of you too. It's been amazing. This is exactly what major golf should be in every respect. In the Razor's Edge challenge that the course offers. Visually, it's beautiful to look at, I think. It's particularly if you have if you like that kind of slightly old school aesthetic with kind of waist areas, and it's not so manicured on TV. It just looks like an old school golf course. And the challenge is that it demands that you play at the edge of your ability for every single hole. There are holes that are playing easier than others for sure, but generally speaking, this is a golf course that demands full attention on every single shot that you play. A lot has been said about the greens, which are in area big, but in real terms, much, much smaller. The landing zones are so small. And as we've seen countless times over the last 3 days, you're a couple of feet out, and it's the difference between a good birdie look and double, and for those reasons alone, it's lived up absolutely to a major test, and I can't wait for this evening, because as much as DeChambeau has a 3-shot lead, all it takes is, as we saw with Ober yesterday on 13, all it takes is one hole and that league can disappear. So I'm with, yeah.
Apologies. So Mike Triple Mind, is that better? Let me know
Yes.
in the comments. In and out.
Yeah.
Apologies. Okay, apologies. So some of the early messages, we'll get to them in no particular order. Is Bryson's putting anchoring? Somebody straight in wants to know.
Well, no, because, I mean, whether you think it is or not, they don't think it is. The authorities don't think it is. So there you go.
Yeah, but they think the same about Bernhard Langer, and that's not what Pete thinks.
Yeah, I look, they made a huge mistake when they did anchoring. You know, shortest club in the bag should have been your putter, simple as.
Yeah.
And they made balls of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Could
it is
Pavon
anchoring.
It is. Okay. Well, fair enough. Could Pavon become a bigger villain than Stuart Sink? I mean, it is the big fear, isn't it? Matthew Pavon. Okay, French golf, amazing, but no one cares. We don't care really about that. That's not fun.
Well,
in what way will he become a villain?
Well, it's not a very. I mean,
great.
Anyone else wins, it's kind of just another juicy chapter in the narrative, Pete, the never-ending narrative. Whereas Pavon wins, it's like, well, I don't know what to do with that.
First French winner since 1907.
He has no chance. Let's be honest.
I agree.
He's the Gregory Avray of this.
He's also
2010. He's had a great year. Like, he's one of the. When we look back on 2024 and the changes to golf, the 10 European players getting their PGA Tour cards, like, he has been proof that this works. Like, he's been a sort of solid enough, you'd have to say, journeyman European Tour player for quite a few years. Gets over, takes his chance, wins a Torrey Pines, sort of out of nothing, and takes full advantage of that. Now puts himself in contention to win a major as well. So you'd have to assume he's going to fall away.
Yeah.
We haven't had that sort of a winner, it feels, in a long, long time. But he has won this year.
To echoes Fion's thoughts for just a moment. Nathan and Peter, is everybody in agreement here? Course is fantastic. A joy to watch this kind of golf.
100%. I find it very interesting. I find it's. I have to say, I'm nearly going to say it's fair. You miss the fairways, you're struggling. You miss the wrong spots on the greens, you're struggling. And it gives you so many different options with short game, rather than a gouge out of the rough, which is your normal PGA event. I think this is what I would much prefer to see this most weeks of the year.
Yeah, I think 13 summed it up with McIlroy and Finau. If you have the shots, it can be fair. If you don't have the shot, like you looked at what Finau did and you thought McIlroy, this exact same thing is going to happen, but it didn't. Like, he had that shot, and what's so fascinating about tonight is, like, it's not a course where with 3 holes to go, if someone's 4 shots clear, you feel it's in the bag. Like, there's a big number on so many of these holes, and even looking at that top 10, like, probably half of them had a double or a treble last night. Obviously Bryson had the double and bounced back really well. Aubert puts himself smack in contention, has a nightmare. Finau, similar situation. So it does feel that even maybe if you get through 16, you're all right.
Yeah. I just had a question, actually, not to bury into course architecture takes, because they can become interminable. But one thing which is really enjoyable about this type of golf is that the fairway bunkers aren't in rough. And it's only when you watch a tournament like this where they're not in rough that you realize how often they are surrounded by rough on the PGA Tour. And I'm wondering, is that because on the PGA Tour, the architect laid out the course, but then to cope with PGA Tour players, the setup has to narrow the fairways, and therefore bunkers, which would have been, in fairways, and therefore the ball, if it's going in their direction, would run into them. Like that aspect is lost almost on the PGA Tour, because so often you see a PGA Tour event and balls heading towards a bunker, but there's rough before the fairway bunker, and so it stays out. And there's something kind of thrilling and extra scary for the golfers when it's firm and fast and the ball is trundling on the fairway towards a bunker 20, 30, 40 yards away and ends up in it. And I think that's a fun thing not to have in golf more often.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Bunkers in fairways are much better than bunkers in rough. And trying to hit it out of a fairway bunker with a decent lip on it is far more difficult than hitting it out of the rough just short of it. So, yeah.
Okay. Strange how it's become that way. Let's talk Bryson. Kid's good, isn't he? I mean, really good.
Yeah, he's amazing. I think one of the listeners' point is his driving overshadowing his general play and his short game, and like the shot he hit on 13, he went into the fairway bunker. That shot he hit on 13 was sensational. His short game, like, and as much as a friend of mine who's not a big golf fan was asking me last night, geez, Bryson looks like he's made up of different robot parts, because he's so mechanical looking, and that can often, I think, you can, I mean, it's ugly kind of in a sense. It doesn't have a beautiful flow, and it doesn't have that elegance that we like, etc. But it's so good. He's such a good putter. His short game is sensational. Obviously, his driving is prodigious, but yeah, and the way he played, I think he's held his nerve so well, even in spite, he had that double and then followed it with a birdie straight away. And like, whatever mistakes he makes, he seems to minimize their impact, and everyone's going to make mistakes. But yeah, Bryson's just, I mean, obviously he's the man to beat for the score, but he's the man to beat just on general play, I think.
But his attitude has changed dramatically, has it not? His whole demeanor, his whole attitude to playing golf, his attitude to the crowd, his attitude to his fellow professionals, his attitude to the interviewee or interviewer. It's like chalk and cheese. He somehow realized a year ago that he had to change dramatically. And he's done all this YouTube stuff, and he's done all this. He's brought far more young kids that are like, everybody knows who Bryson DeChambeau is now.
Yeah, and I think that I think we said it before in the pod that the move to live seems to facilitate or certainly take full advantage of his particular personality, which, they seem to appreciate him, and he in turn then feels more comfortable and happier. And as you said, he's doing a lot of the social media stuff. There's a thing with Bryson always is that, like, yes, I agree. I like watching him engage, but there's a kind of a fierce bang of want off him as well. Like, he desperately seems to want the love of the crowd. Like, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that fundamentally, but like, he seems to really kind of flourish when they're cheering, like, he doesn't have that kind of, like, it's very un-Tiger-esque, where Tiger's like, everybody, I'm in a bubble, just leave me alone. Whereas Bryson seems very much like, he seems fueled by it, and even like on 13, was he turning around and he was like, oh, I really want to drive and it's like that engagement with the crowd goes against kind of like established wisdom in golf, like in terms of like, Jesus, Jack Nicklaus always said that Arnold Palmer would have won way more tournaments had he not been so conscious of being a crowd favorite, which may or may not be true, and it's obviously Nicklaus's perspective. But like, I wonder, yeah, as much as I agree with you, Peter, I think his attitude is definitely transformed, and there's a happiness to him that clearly informs good golf. But as I said, like, I can't help that feeling of like, just that kind of, you just want the love of the crowd a lot.
He has always had that. You think of the shot at Bay Hill when he was playing with Westwood and he drives it across, and there's almost the iconic celebration, even with the drive. And yeah, like the Arnold Palmer comparison is probably a good one in that it does feel as though he wants to be that modern day Palmer in a very different way, and he's connecting with a different audience that, we're probably not even aware is out there, a far younger base. I just wonder, getting away from the PGA Tour where there was such a negative impression of him, that, listen, he played into himself and created a lot of that. And even though Koepka obviously went to live as well, like, most of the stuff that he's doing isn't really live related. It's live has given him the time and the space and the freedom to go and live this other life, to go and become the YouTube sensation, to do all the fun stuff. I do wonder if it's a negative for tonight, that side of it. Again, going back to Nicklaus and Palmer, I just wonder about the emotions of DeChambeau as he tries to sort of showboat his way around a little bit. Is he going to be calm enough in himself to just play a really steady round of golf? Like, maybe on 13, the decisions he's making are good decisions, but I do just wonder if he's going to want some sort of big moment where he doesn't just win a US Open, he wins it a way that everybody remembers forever. But he definitely feels more likable, and his awareness of what his audience is. Like, I haven't seen an interview where he hasn't basically mentioned his YouTube following and what he's done with the YouTube crowd and all of that. Yeah, it feels a bit more real, this Bryson, than the one we saw when he won previously.
Bryson got away with murder on 3 drives late last night, lest we forget, says Belvoir 93. It's interesting. Kyle Porter put up a comparison of the length of Rory's drives and the length of Bryson drives at this tournament, or certainly it was the round last night. And Rory is hitting longer drives than Bryson routinely. So whether he's reined it in or not, I don't know. Or maybe he was just never going to get as big as Rory, although it felt like a couple of years ago he certainly was. Maybe he's reined it in a touch, but it was an interesting comparison. You were coming in there, Peter?
I just think he's the only box office player we have now. Like when Tiger's
Rory is box office.
You'd have Rory as box office, no?
No, not really? to the extent. Not, in my opinion, not to the extent that Bryson is now. And to be honest with you, I didn't like Bryson when he came out. I thought he was just too arrogant and too full of himself. And I said many times the honeymoon phase of hitting it that hard, and he realized himself then that he couldn't hit it that hard and keep it on the planet. And he's reined it in, and now he's become possibly one of the best drivers of the balls out there. But everything else is, it's to do with the enjoyment of watching golf, and he brings a much more enjoyment of it, and he stands up to the box office that he is. We often have Rory into the same position, but over the last 8-9 years, he hasn't lived up to that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's also worth pointing out to that driving point, Joe, is that Bryson's hit 26 drives of 330 plus yards. That's 7 more than Wyndham Clark and 8 more than Rory. I know Rory hit a 350 yarder the other day, but like Bryson seems to have dialed it back. But when he seems to have that confidence to unleash a massive one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the journey towards being a complete golfer, was to get the speed and the distance initially, and then to harness it as you need it, and it does seem, I have to say, I've never seen a more complete Bryson DeChambeau than this. This is just a full array of golf, and he has been both hyper aggressive, like you saw 17 last night, and on numerous occasions he's gone flag hunting and he's 1-2 feet from disaster and rolling off greens, but he's gone at it. But then also, like, he's not reckless. Remember when he came out at Augusta a couple of years ago with his newfound length and he just sprayed it everywhere? It was like embarrassing. It was like a teenager driving a car. He's also been very cautious over the last couple of days and mature, and like he's played punch shots out of the wiregrass, which was really grown-up golf when he didn't need to. The driving exceptional, the iron play exceptional. And Fionn, you referenced it at the top. I mean, the short game. Like when we talk about winged foot being bomb and gouge does such a disservice to his play in 2020. And I think in a way, this course has allowed him to show just what a brilliant short game he has. The putting, amazing again, so rigid and robotic. It looks like nothing you would teach, and yet it's been phenomenal. His bunker play last night, couple of amazing bunker shots. And then I suppose, Pete, you referenced his resilience mentally. Like, you think of last night, he's sitting on a 4-shot lead. It's Saturday. I'm almost home. And he gets so unlucky on 16 that the ball just rolled back enough, and then he stabs the chip, which can happen, and it's a double. And it was back to a 2-shot lead, and I thought, this could be won by the end of the evening, that kind of a moment. And he goes and he puts it closer on 17 than anybody had put it all day. So I thought it was just a complete performance. And I'd be fascinated to know on the crowd front. I think you're right, Fionn. I think, and Nathan, you said as well, he just wants to be loved. I do think ultimately that's the driving force here, but there's no doubt that 2-3 years ago, the crowd were an impediment to this guy. And now he goes out this evening and somehow the crowd is a massive advantage to him. Like, what a turnaround. I can't think of a bigger turnaround. Come at me if you can think of one. I can't think of a bigger turnaround in sport, let alone golf, in such a short time frame of a sports person going from hostility to the point of bullying to now crowd favorite. Not okay, we'll lay off you. I mean, crowd favorite, like to the point where people are saying, God, if it was Rory or Bryson together, who would the crowd go for? Like 18 months difference. And maybe he cynically sat down in a sort of on the spectrum way and said, things I need to sort out. Crowd one of them, putting two. And it's the thing is, it's not a difficult thing to go on the charm offensive. Crowds are pretty easily manipulated. I mean, he signed an autograph on the tee box at one stage, and Hene on Sky was comparing him to Muhammad Ali, which was a difficult moment for all concerned. And let's not make that a thing, you know.
And not to emphasize that point you just made, Joe, it's not that difficult. It's just he gives something to the crowd, a reaction, a kind of it's like he's acknowledging that the crowd is there. The crowd feel seen by a player. And just that simple formula alone is enough to guarantee that, like, you know what, and then last night they were like chanting his name, but they were also chanting USA, USA. It was just like, all of a sudden, does Bryson represent America? It's like, he's the All-American. I was like, you're absolutely right. This transformation is quite something, and you're watching it in real time, and you're going, holy shit, like what is going on?
Yeah. It's crazy. Nathan, am I missing anyone? I mean, David Beckham, obviously, with England, went from 98, by the time 01 came around and the free kick against Greece, he had reclimbed the mountain. So that was a pretty good one. But I can't think of many that have turned around like this in sport, like beloved now.
No, it is mad. It's completely mad. And again, while we're talking about that sort of new audience, they're not really the audience at the US Open either. Like, totally. That's your traditional golf audience who have somehow decided there's something more likable about this guy. Like, you're saying, someone pointing out that everyone shouting USA, USA is the guy who makes his living now from, the Saudis here. But
yeah,
he's the living embodiment of everything that we want from our all-American golfer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's like, was this always in him and we just took him up wrong? I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody did take him aside and said, listen, we're going to reimagine Bryson DeChambeau over the next couple of years, and it is working beautifully. But it's irrelevant unless he's backing it up. And he is backing it up on the golf course. Like that shot in 17, I don't know how often a shot in the third round is sort of seen as the shot of the tournament, but it does feel, after what had happened in 16, to stand up and have the balls to do that, it feels like if he goes on to win, that might be the moment that he actually won this tournament.
Yeah.
Have any of you watched The Boys on Amazon Prime?
We do that at the end of podcast. If you
No. I was watching him. He's like Homelander in The Boys, but without, the sociopathic, murderous rage.
He feels very hard to stop, I have to say.
Yeah.
I can't see past him this evening.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Sorry, you go ahead.
No, go ahead, Peter.
No, I was just going to say, Joe touched on something there in relation to, and something that's come up in the comments there. How bad has Sky Sports been?
Oh, well, let's get in. I'm sorry, I'm ignoring the comments. Excuse me. Okay, Mr. Larson, what's happened to golf coverage on Sky? Absolutely shocking. They've clearly made huge cuts. Faldo gets criticism. He's often wrong, but he's the only interesting contributor this week.
Jesus.
Talk to me, Peter. What's happened with Sky?
Oh, they seem to have pulled the plug, don't they, financially wise? Like, they cut away there to Nick and Faldo and McGinley doing commentary in a cubicle, which is probably...
It was very snug, I thought.
But that's where is that not where you always do commentary?
Which would be an understatement.
Yeah, but do they not always do it in a little bunker like that? I mean, that's never a salubrious trend.
I think they do.
To a point, yeah. But then...
If ever you wanted smell-o-vision, it was at that moment. Sorry, go on.
And then, where's their studio? Like, remember they used to have the studio with the guys in the suits sitting on the the nice chairs.
Is that a Masters thing? Do they generally go big Masters and actually secretly not that big on the rest? They'll go big again at the Open. The Open will be big.
There's definitely been an element of cutbacks. I assume with the Masters, well, it is the biggest event of the year for them by a mile, and there's probably has been a broadcast partner they have to go and deliver to a certain standard, whereas the other organizations are probably a bit more relaxed. But I from what I'm aware, this is in keeping with a lot of what's going on with Sky at the moment, that there's just general cutbacks around their coverage of all sports because they're having to invest so much money in rights consistently, and particularly around the Premier League. And that's their big money spinner. So this has been coming year on year on year down to, okay, now at least they give us, sometimes on the Monday, Tuesday night, they'll give us the American coverage, but that's sort of week long at the major. I assume it'll be back for the Open. Like, they'll still go heavy as the main host of the Open. That'll be the full on package across the week. But it does mean the tournament sort of sneaks up on you a little bit when it's not. Even on Sky Sports News, and I know the Euros are on, and again, football is everything. There's not much golf on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're not going to cross 10 times during the day. It didn't feel like, anyways. And sorry, the coverage on Thursday night, I really noticed this, and I thought it was going mad. Like, somebody standing over a putt, and there'd be no graphic. So you're watching Finau, and you're like, is this for, particularly on this course? Like, you know, your 5-footer could be for birdie, par, bogey, triple bogey. You've literally no idea. And there was time and time again, there was just no graphic coming up. I assume that's on Sky, that they have their own graphics, that they're not just taking that in from the American coverage. But yeah, it does feel a little bit flat.
I was going to ask you, Nathan, because so are Sky, would they be responsible for their own graphics? Because NBC had massive problems yesterday. They had they're saying it's a heat-related power outage that affected a whole bunch of their production trucks. So it affected like drone shots, graphics, just generally speaking. So are Sky kind of dependent on them having their act together so they can, or are they kind of operating independent? Certainly not. Obviously the cameras are different, but like.
I don't know, to be honest, but this was Thursday night, so this wasn't the yesterday.
Okay, so it wasn't yesterday, yeah.
And on some holes they would show the graphics as to what shot it was and what position they were and all of that. But it must be their own graphic, because it looks different to the NBC graphic. Now, maybe it's all powered by the same person, ultimately sitting in a little booth deciding what we're going to see.
Yeah.
But like, it's going to be a struggle for golf years to get the right people, because the big names aren't going to do it consistently. So, you know, maybe they are going to have to offer the bigger names, just come in and just do the 4 majors for us, and you don't have to commit to the 10 or 15 tournaments per year. But yeah, it's definitely a step down on where it was pre-COVID.
Yeah,
I thought it's funny to the point that Faldo's the only one saying anything interesting. I don't know. I think interesting, slightly abrasive, kind of self-serving a little bit. Faldo seems personally offended if anyone makes a mistake. It's like you take it, and I guess that does lend color to his commentary. I thought it was particularly interesting when at one point he kind of exclaims, almost like frustratedly, he's like, yeah, but Bryson's cheating. His clubs aren't at all what they're meant to be. Like, and he mentions that the 5-iron has a offset of 19 degrees compared to the 26 degrees of a standard 5-iron.
See, I thought that was great, and that's what
so did I. I thought that was kind
saying
of
is that, like, at least there's a bit of color there. But
I
think we're being and actually, you know, he does things which I suspect the producers are saying, oh God, don't do that.
Yeah.
Where like they put up a graphic at one stage when Pavon had a really tricky downhill putt, like about 30, 40 feet on the, I think it was that par 3 that both Finau and McIlroy birdied. Remember, they both had the exact same shot and the ball trickled down. Well, Pavon was at the top of that hill and had the long putt, and a graphic came up about like the make percentage, which Faldo kind of, you know, he does it in that way that, I don't know, people of a certain age kind of go, make percentage 32%. And he's reading it out almost in real time. And then he got to strength 52%. Well, what does that mean? What's strength 52%? What is that? What is he meant to hit it 52% less strong than he thinks? What the hell? How are you meant to do that? And
That's
so
right.
I could see a producer saying, Nick, we should be explaining this to the fucking viewers. This isn't you should know what this is. But I'm sitting there going, well, that's fun. I feel like I'm just watching the golf with Faldo.
There is an interesting comparison between, say, him, certainly, and Rich Beam, but also McGinley. So McGinley and Rich Beam are very much of that school of golf is incredibly hard. Everybody is trying their absolute best. So, like, if something doesn't go right, it's kind of like, oh. Whereas Faldo, who has 6 majors and is one of the most successful European golfers of all time, is just like, no, that's a mistake. You made a mistake. And
I think McGinley calls out mistakes very.
No. McGinley will call out, but there's that sense. Faldo speaks from a position of, I've won 6 of these, and that's fair enough, and that entitles him, I think, to have a different perspective. I mean, I know Rich Beam is a major winner, but Beams just seems like a very positive. He's got that kind of positivity.
I think I think the coverage has been okay. You know, the lack of studio, I grant you, and there's no doubt when the Open's on, it just adds so much. And I totally agree with Nathan's point about the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday build up, like live from the range. That is so important. Like they were doing that for WGCs in Mexico just before COVID, and that to not have that at a US Open is like sorely felt, that loss. But I think once the play is underway, you know, to varying degrees, there some of them have weaknesses, some of them have strengths. But like, give me Radar all day long, give me McGinley all day long. Ewan
100%.
Murray, absolutely no problems with. Rich Beam, no problems with. I think Henny's grown into it. Like, it's probably something we all do at the start of broadcast. I think she's very conscious of her own voice and her delivery, and she's more focused on that almost than what she's saying sometimes is actually something that strikes me. And in 2, 3, 4 years, she'll be better at that. Laura Davies, no problem with. Andrew Coulthard, you know, I think it's pretty good on the whole.
I agree.
You know,
I think Faldo has a pass because he can say whatever he likes. Right? And gets away with it. So the others are probably a little bit more guarded in that way because they probably have a producer in there going, what the hell are you saying? Yes, but Faldo, there's no way no producer's talking to Faldo in the middle of a conversation. That's for sure.
And Faldo's not contracted to Sky. So
and ironically, by the way, for producers everywhere, that's a good lesson on TV, that actually letting someone be more human and say some funny stuff and be a bit more colourful will lead to better TV across the board, not just a Sky Golf thing. Sorry, Peter, go on.
No, and then the other thing is, we all know the golf course is tough. They don't need to keep on saying that it's impossible, it's really tough, it's really hard. Like, we all understand that it's hard. We've all watched a lot of it so far. So just quit the point of, you know, if he misses this left, yes, if he misses this left, you know, he's in trouble. But, you know, there's still plenty of room right that he can hit it into. Like, a couple of the shots that Rory hit yesterday, you know, they didn't, you know, that's kind of understandable why he missed it there. No, that was a shit shot.
Yeah, and that you're right.
He's going in with 4-iron into a green where Tony Finau, you know, hit the similar club going into the green, hits it into the middle of the green. Rory hits it in the bunker. Oh, well, you know, that's understandable.
Can I ask this sincerely? Was that Nick Doherty commenting at that point? Because he obviously has a weakness on that front. Yeah.
Actually, did anybody see how low Tony Finau got yesterday hitting the ball? Did anybody see? Well,
Faldo made a joke about it.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
He was nearly on his knees hitting it.
Yeah.
I think Faldo gets a very hard time. I think that's come from a lot of the American coverage over the last few years where, again, the thing that I think is just fine, he's won 6 majors. He comes in, you wouldn't want 6 Faldos in there with no research done and just saying what they see. But, you know, McGinley does all the work. You know, McGinley has all the data. Rich Beam, again, even with 1 major, knows he needs to come. If he's been critical of a player, he needs to have something in his back pocket that he can back it up. I like the fact that actually you get a bit of Faldo. As you say, he's not afraid to call it out. If the players go back at him, he couldn't give a shite. True. If somebody comes back and says, how dare you say this? Whereas there seemed to be a constant criticism when he was on American television of how has this guy turned up to the Farmers Insurance Open and not done every bit of research about every player in the field.
Yeah. But in defense of Faldo, do you not think, though, that his fundamental understanding of the golf swing is so impressive? Like he watches a swing and he'll tell you like 5 things about what happened. He's unbelievable.
To be fair to him, I think he does more work than people give him credit for. Like, I think he does the important stuff. So I think he goes out in the range. I think he talks to players. I think he does look at the course. I just don't think he cares what the 52% bullshit graphic is that somebody had to come up with something new for the sake of something new is, because he knows it's bullshit.
Yeah. What about the cringeworthy thing last night when Rory was being interviewed?
Oh, go on. I missed this.
So Rory's been interviewed and what's the name of the girl who was interviewing him?
Kira Dixon.
Kira, yeah. She's very good.
So she is actually quite good, yeah. But she says, so Brad was telling us you were on the plane and you got up on the plane and you found something.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
And
Rory's going, what did Brad tell you?
Yeah, I can't believe Brad is giving away our secrets. Yeah. He said that
in a half joking. Of course I'm joking. We're live on TV here.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
the
I'm sure Brad has another job. He's got to do things. And okay, what else has he been telling you?
So, as in, he found something in his game on the
He
plane?
had a eureka moment. What was the eureka moment?
So he jumped up off his chair on the plane, right, and started going, why didn't I think of that before? And, started having a few practice swings. And then Brad then tells in his interviews that Rory's found a eureka moment on the plane on the way home last week.
Wow.
Rory was not best pleased by that at all.
No,
not at all.
Brad might be outside the circle all of a sudden.
There's a touch of, imagine if you did that to Tiger Woods. It's like you're in Siberia straight away.
And so this isn't like Rory on his private jet putting balls into a glass at the end of the carpet. This is like he's just sitting there thinking and almost hops up with a thought about his game.
Exactly.
Yeah, but he said that, like, he was almost at pains to say, it's like, I do an awful lot of thinking on the plane. I'll do an awful lot of thinking and trying to figure out stuff, like, and it's almost as though he took umbrage at the fact that someone inside the circle would reveal what's going on, and like he's like, no, I'm not.
Strange though, because I mean he's pretty open himself.
Well, that's what I was going to say, and also, like, one of the reasons why when Faxon is on, it's interesting is that he is in that inner circle, and also it's golf. He's not talking about Rory's private life, the divorce, anything that's gone on off the course, and it's an individual game. None of this matters. If Rory has a eureka moment and discovers something, it has no effect on what Bryson DeChambeau does. There's nothing that he's suddenly learned that's going to affect anyone else. So I maybe Rory was just a bit surprised that it had come up and that Faxon was talking about it, and Rory didn't on Saturday night of a major when he's in contention want to be talking about this and going into the press conference and it becomes a big thing. Maybe that was his frustration, but I can't understand why for a minute you would ever have an issue with your coach explaining how you're doing things. Like Rory was the one who recommended that Scotty Scheffler move to a mallet. Like this.
It's so fun. Like, great minds, Nathan. I was just about to say, imagine Brad Faxon had gone on TV and recommended Scotty use a mallet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to say I have a certain amount of, maybe not sympathy, but I understand where Rory is coming from, in that Rory is the one. So, like, I'll decide what's said and what's not said.
Sure.
Sure.
No, I get that. So to round off the comments, then, Arbo, Laura is a poor co-com. Very rarely calls it correctly. Radar stick is getting old. Funny on Radar, I've had a fallen in love all over again with him.
I think he's brilliant
with Radar at the moment, but that's the beauty of opinions. Bryson's tournament to lose at this stage, says Phil Gill, who also says of the TV coverage, I feel they missed a lot of shots last night. Missed 3 or 4 Rory's tee shots on the back nine. To be fair, that wouldn't be a Sky issue. That's the feed they're getting. Colin Malloy, he's no relation to me, by the way. He often messages in. Sky must use their own graphics if Dame Laura and Sir Nick are flagged as being on comms. Feel sorry for Wayne, who's not even afforded Radar. Bring back Monty.
No. Jesus, lads, come on.
The Laura Davies thing is strange. Again, looking at the production side of it, in that I think she's really good, and I don't mind listening to her. It's the calling of where the ball is going to land in the air that is such a simple fix. That's got, particularly in a course like this, where you have no idea where it's actually going to land, and a foot either way is going to have a massive difference. The producers haven't just, and maybe they've said it a million times, and it's just not. Actually, just wait till the ball lands. Just give yourself that extra 2 seconds to just wait and see what happens.
Yeah. We've only really talked Bryson. By the way, just as a final exclamation point on him. So he had treatment, obviously, on the course around 10 or 11. Strange comments afterwards. You consider this guy's multi-millionaire, probably times 100 at this stage, and this is the busiest part of the season, and he's talking about a chronic long-term hip injury. So he said after the treatment, it was tougher to get through a couple of shots. It's okay though. I've had this for a long time now. It's just something that popped up during the round. I've been playing a lot of golf lately, and I've been working on my house, trying to get my house finished, so I haven't had time to rest it like I should or I want to. What?
That's Bryson.
Oh my god! There you go. So
somebody get the drone up there while I'm getting my treatment.
Yeah.
So just we should do a quick drive-by on him. I had thought that we'd be talking a lot about Ludwig Göberg today, but how about that? I mean, that was just, what a way to blow up. Just like 4 holes before, Faldo was asked about him, and he said, and again, it's that Faldo ability to kind of say something that sticks in your mind. He said, the word I always have with Oberg is tidy. He's just such a tidy golfer. Everything he does is tidy. Swing beautiful, tidy. He's tidy, gets in the ball, hits it quickly, no messing around. Just such a great tidy golfer. Really impressed with him. He did fat it twice on the par 5 fourth 2 days in a row. So like ended up laying up. But other than that, I mean, he was brilliant, obviously, until the 13th. So in 9 rounds of major golf, only 9 rounds to be fair to him, that's his first ever triple. And it was just that zigzag back and forth across the green, Pinehurst kind of nightmare. But I suppose when you're playing so well and you're 3 days in, you kind of think, well, the people that's going to happen to has happened. But that's the fun thing about this course, I guess. Happened to Bryson, obviously, in 16, and then to a greater extent to Oberg, is that the course can still do that. I always remember at the Masters, when he blew himself out of the tournament on 11, he walked off with a slightly psychopathic smile, as if to say, it's okay, it's okay. And he did that once or twice at Pinehurst. He did not smile after 13 yesterday.
No,
Even he knew.
No, he knew.
It hurt more.
No smiling matter. This one is not being smiled at.
Yeah.
So, but geez, he looked really good up until that.
He's leading the field in ball striking. Short game, probably not up to the same standard. If he was to win, now I don't think he will, but if he was to win, he'd be the first debutant to win in 111 years. Like it's just so unlikely. I agree. I think he won't win today, but I think he's a major champion all over the place. Like this is a guy who's going to win a lot. He's so good.
You just have to try and remind yourself that he made his debut as a professional a year ago. It feels as if he's been around for 4 or 5 years. It feels as though we're getting used to him just contending in majors, even though the Masters was his first ever major. Yeah. And his attitude is so good. I know that, the smile is probably the bit of psychology and even was it the shot in 10 where he just gets over and the caddy has this great reaction like, he's just really interesting to watch. And obviously he has the game, and we've seen what happened on 13 happens to several people yesterday. It'll probably happen again today, but it does already feel he's moving up that list of best players without a major incredibly quickly. Like it's probably Hovland, Cantlay maybe ahead of him at this stage.
Yeah.
Is there not something missing from this game?
Shocker. There's something missing, Pete. Go on.
There's something missing from this game. He doesn't seem to have that, just that X factor that will take him to the next level.
You don't think so?
He seems to play golf that it's too easy. No. I'm making myself wrong there, but he just seems to. It's nearly. How would you describe it? It's one step after another step after another step after another step. It's not. There's nothing brilliant and there's nothing crap. Do you know what I mean? There's no je ne sais quoi. There's no.
He's Scotty Scheffler.
There's no savvy in him. No, he's not Scotty Scheffler, because Scotty Scheffler swings it and reacts to the shots totally different than Ludwig does. Like Ludwig, stands up and he's like robotic. And I think there's just too much robotic about him than the other players. And that when he makes that mistake, which cost him the Masters, which cost him last night, and he smiles it off, it's not a smiling incident. It's not it's just a pure mistake, and he doesn't seem to be able to compute that mistake. Do you get what I mean now? No?
You'd like to see a bit more emotion out of him.
Maybe not. Just that he understands where he is, rather than, he's playing in a US Open. He's playing in the Masters. It's not. You're not playing in the local 4-ball.
But he knows that.
Oh, I know that, but he doesn't give the impression that he knows that.
Is that not a really positive thing?
Possibly,
there's obviously a bit of the Swedish temperament, but also, is this not? It feels as though this is an awful lot of the golfers who are coming out of the American college system, that they are quite emotionless. They are just this relentless machine that does everything really well. And there's no massive strength, there's no massive weakness. They're just kind of good at everything. And he looks to be the pick of the bunch. I would have thought that all of those things are actually exactly what you would want. Do you think he doesn't have that next gear when you need it?
Yeah. Like when we saw Victor Hovland come out, right? He swung the club very well, not as well as Ludwig does. He had probably Achilles heel in relation to his short game. Ludwig doesn't have that. But I would have said he would have been a better player than Ludwig, purely because he has that spark. And I just missed that spark from Ludwig's game.
Yeah. He might just be so good. No, he might just be so good, Pete, though, that I think he could, in a sort of sparkless foot down the whole time, 6th gear, no gear changes, no spark, win a major by 8 shots someday, that kind of way. He's just that good. He'll win it in a tidy way.
Maybe so. He's no Scotty Scheffler, that's for sure. And he's not Tiger either.
No, he's not. Listen.
No.
Agreed. So that's him. By the way, you mentioned Hovland. So I mean, some of the scores. It is because somebody asked earlier on, is the course too fair? I don't know. I think this is a consequence of no laying up, and it's just idiotic.
What do you mean by too fair?
I don't know. They just want like carnage. Nobody under par. It's just silly, and it's become kind of a fashionable thing. But
the late guys got very lucky yesterday in relation to the weather. Like the wind completely dropped.
It did, yeah. It did. They even said there was kind of dew on the grass almost by evening time. But like just to show how difficult it is. So players who missed the cut. Poor old Phil Mickelson for his 2 rounds, 15 over. Worst score was 20 over for 2 rounds. 2 days of 10 over par, You have Moronk. Moronk is a brilliant player. 12 over for his 2 days. You keep going up. Justin Thomas, who, to be fair, is playing terribly, but like 11 over. You keep going up. Perez, 9 over. Robert Rock, who had a good start, finished 9 over. Jason Day, 8 over. Like these guys are absolutely whacked. Ricky Fowler, in great form. He was, in contention at the US Open last year, 8 over. Tiger Woods, 7 over. Definitely didn't rule out it being his last ever US Open afterwards. Will Zalatoris, 8 over. Seamus Power finished 7 over in the end. So, Victor Hovland, 6 over. Bob McIntyre, 6 over. These guys are absolutely massacred by the course,
Yeah.
And when you look into those scores as well, I was just going to say, when you look into some of them scores, someone like Eduardo Molinari on Thursday had got to like 2 under early, and you're going, bloody hell, Eduardo Molinari's playing in the US Open still. And then he has in the second round, he has an 8 on the 10th, so a triple. There's a double. Like nearly all of those players are just having 1 or 2 bad holes that puts them out of it, and then there's probably a bit of it just getting away from them.
Yeah.
But that's still there. Like that's what we're talking about. That's what makes it so interesting, is that risk of a double or a triple is still there on so many of the holes around the course.
Yeah. AO says it's going to be classic Rory when he leaves today, passing by, and then wins the Travellers next week. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, he says. Kevin van Elkenberg said that McIlroy's demeanour this week has been very much bubble, very focused, not talking to anybody, friends or foes, not making eye contact, just in his own little world. That was the approach, which is kind of an interesting insight from the course. Like in the main, he's played really well. In broad terms, I think you put that out there. I thought his first round was all business, very focused, good up and downs when required, didn't make every putt, not making every putt. Nobody is. These are tough greens. Harry Higgs was talking about the greens being so difficult that sometimes the grain would tell you it has to go that way and then it doesn't. And in a way, I kind of thought, well, if everyone's having that trouble reading the greens, then actually that sort of levels the field for Rory a little bit, because he has them at the best of times. But some of the shots he's hitting are phenomenal. So broad terms, you'd have to say, yet again, it's a really good showing on his part,
Yeah.
and we are bloody going to miss him when he's gone because Shane Lowry is not going to be there every major. Seamus Power, Harrington's gone. Like this is it, to have an Irish guy going out second last group in the US Open. I mean, it's so regularly. I just think he's amazing, and the first impulse is to obviously go, well, let's talk about what he's not doing well, and we'll get to that. But like in the main, he's so underrated. He's so underappreciated. Just some of the shots he's hitting are phenomenal around this place.
I think his performance over the first 3 days was displayed an incredible maturity. He has plotted his way around the course unbelievably well. He's played to the right parts of the green for the most part. He leads the field tee to green. He's 40.
How about these low drives? I think
they're unbelievable. Like his just approach to the course, the manner in which he's plotting his way around is amazing. And like, were he not to win, I mean, we'll obviously see what happens today, but were he not to win, there's nothing that he's done, like nothing like in the past where you can go, Jesus Christ, what were you doing? You gave up, or your head dropped, or you're this. None of that has happened. He's 45th in putting. He's having a bit of a struggle on the greens.
That feels about right. It hasn't been disastrous, but it hasn't been hot.
It's just not been sharp, super sharp. Like I have to say, I've been, and I agree with you, and I think that's a good thing to remember is how unbelievably consistently good. I think this is what he's been now going into the top 5 in the US Open for forever or whatever it is. Like, it's impressive. Like, he's thereabouts.
He's somewhere between Leinster rugby. Actually, that's a perfect analogy. I was going to say on Mayo football, but Rory, much like Leinster, does have 4 stars on the jersey from about a decade ago. So that's basically where he is now. But he keeps coming, and he's like consistently maybe the best around, give or take.
6th year in a row that he's in the top 10 going into the final round.
Remember, he said to us at the K Club, Nathan, that around the time he kept missing cuts at US Opens, he realized he was playing courses on tour which were too easy. And so he started deliberately working in tougher courses into his schedule, and that's made him a better US Open player. I thought that was really interesting. So, he's come to love the US Open, actually.
Yeah, and the trend is upwards. When you look at his results over the last 5 years, there's only one place to go, which is to win it. And yeah, is Rory still underappreciated?
Yeah,
I know there's people who. I think there's still people. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Ford. I think he has. I don't think he has the love that maybe he deserves, because a lot of people have just never taken to him for some reason. I think most sports fans will acknowledge how great Rory has been and how consistently good that he has been.
I'm hearing it's not a nice word, but I hear bottler a lot.
I don't think you could call him a bottler. Now, maybe if he puts himself in a position tonight and he, with 4 or 5 holes to go, and he's right there to win it and he doesn't, then that will definitely be bandied about. But he's put himself in contention regularly over the last 2 or 3 years to win majors. I'm wondering, when we think back to St. Andrews, where, we probably would have said to do what he did, which is, you just go solid around here and you'll be just fine. And actually, obviously, that game plan was totally wrong. And Cam Smith comes up on the inside and just goes straight by him. Like tonight, if he could play tonight like he played on Thursday, like Thursday felt like his best round at a major in maybe a decade. It was just perfect. It was totally controlled, totally at ease with himself, putted really well. Even the putting stats, like the only great difference between himself and Bryson at the moment is Bryson's putting better than McIlroy. Then Bryson had those couple that sort of just, those great putts that look so brilliant on TV that they're going out and you're like, and it just drops in. Like a couple of them happened for Rory. It's very, he's right on his shoulder. Would you take 4 under? He's on 4 under now. Would you take a 70?
No.
I think he needs.
I think Bryson's feeling it. Can I just clarify the way? By the way, bottler's not my comment. I'm hearing that when you're out meeting people, chatting. That Rory comes up. It's not. I don't think he is by any means. I really don't.
And I think bottler is such a reductive term anyway.
It's a pathetic term, and it speaks to people who don't get how complicated and difficult golf is.
Is there though an overriding sense that for all of his genius and all of his incredible ability and all of his consistency since he first came on tour, is that there's a kind of like Peter was talking about Oberg's there's like a killer instinct that's just not activated or not there or not like that.
Well, I think it's just and Pete, sorry, you haven't talked about Rory, so come in. I still think when you watch him play, and I said this at the PGA Valhalla, part of his genius obviously is that acceleration through the ball and the moving parts, and it's fluid and it's glorious. But like when you're under pressure, the more moving parts you have become harder to execute. Rory in a state of flow on a driving range, relaxed, is like I'd take him over any of them. But like, what can you do under severe pressure and things tighten a touch? And so I think his swing is just that bit more susceptible to tension, whereas the others less so. And so I think that's what it is, Fionn. I still think he's a killer, like at Wells Fargo or a FedEx playoff. I kind of think he's a killer. But when he's playing LACC last year and he's got to hit that wedge, or we got to get up and down, then I think the tightness is acutely felt, and that explains the last however many years. Although it's not the same explanation for every tournament. Sometimes it has been put in different years, but of late, I think that's what it is.
Lads, I think outside influences have a huge impact on Rory's game, rather than Rory himself. Like the draw that he got on Thursday was the best draw he could have possibly got.
You think more than really?
By a long shot, yeah.
But it wasn't good for him at the Masters. Wasn't good for the Masters.
He had the same pairing at the Masters.
We didn't know what was going on in the background at the Masters.
Fair point.
We do now know what's going on in the background. Very difficult to play golf when things are not right off the course. Now we know that, that has hopefully settled down for everybody concerned. And he goes into a tournament knowing that he's playing with the hottest favourite there has been in the US Open in a long time, that he sees himself, right, if I can get my game where I'm very comfortable on the golf course now, I can beat these lads, then I've got a chance in this tournament. I know exactly where I stand. And I think that might hurt him tonight in relation to playing with
Cantley,
Patrick Cantley.
How do you mean?
It just that his focus is going to be behind him rather than what's going on here and now. I would have, I would have given him a great chance against Bryson, playing with Bryson. But I think Bryson might just pull away.
Lads, obviously we're ahead of the final round. Rory is in a good position, maybe not a great one. It's good. And it's churlish to suggest that he that he doesn't have a chance of winning, because of course he does. But the fact, it's the tried and it's the oldest. He hasn't won in 10 years, and there's a consistent reason for why he hasn't won in 10 years. It's not just all he's unlucky, or, you know what I mean? It's like there is. And to your point, Joe, it's like, he's a killer at Wells Fargo. He's a killer in the FedEx, but maybe that's the level that he's most comfortable at. Like a very high level, no question. And look, we've said it a gazillion times. Like, I don't think today with Bryson 3 shots ahead is an indicator of anything other than the fact that Bryson is hot as anything and he's 3 shots ahead. So he has to be the prohibitive favorite. But like Rory doesn't win today, I don't think it suggests anything other than he just didn't beat the guy who was the hot favorite. But there is overarching sense that this is a guy who hasn't won in 10 years and the scar tissue just is there, and there's no way of ignoring it. There's just no way. There's no way you can't magic your way out of it. That would be my overriding sense. However, like, does he have a chance of winning? Of course he has a chance of winning.
I would say he has a great chance of winning. I would say it's better than good. He's second. There's only one guy ahead of him. Bryson, at a US Open, at a course like this, it can disappear quickly. And if Bryson does run away with it, if Bryson goes and shoots 67 and gets a number that, McIlroy, simply not going to shoot a 64 out there to close a three shot gap. There's the other things that can happen as well, which is Cantley wins.
Yeah, do you think Cantley
Matsuyama comes from behind? Well, I think more just on the McIlroy context that would be quite damaging of, well, Bryson didn't run away with it, so I actually had that chance, but somebody else snuck in again, and somebody we didn't expect. But, his game looks to be in such good shape. I kind of feel I would have McIlroy when we're making our picks. I think I'll be definitely siding on Rory's side of things.
Yeah.
Cantlay obviously has a great chance. He's in the exact same position as Rory. It's just so bloody hard to get excited about him in any way.
Yeah.
He hasn't. Go on. Sorry.
I'd really echo what Nathan says in terms of like the traffic. So 3 shots is a lot, but it's 3 shots to one guy, and as we know, 1 hole.
Yeah.
And you know, look, you probably like if you're offering me the 2 choices, would you rather Rory be sleeping on 7 under and 3 shots clear of everybody, or sleeping on 4 under? Of course, you take 7 under because the US Open 3 shots is a very nice advantage to have. But there's probably for where Rory is in his psychology, there's probably something not terrible about, God, I'm 3 shots back. You didn't drive off the course on Saturday after doing 25 interviews of, Jesus, Rory, this is it. Oh my God, this is it, Rory. You're 3 ahead. What are you going to do tomorrow? The pressure, blah, blah, blah. He had like, you're in a good position, Rory. You're going to have to stay, you're semi-aggressive tomorrow. So he's kind of had that thing of not sleeping, feeling like the whole world is talking about him. And then waking up this morning and thinking, well, job's not done here, and I can't go into super defensive mode. So I kind of, there's a few ingredients there that are kind of nice. I hate the Cantlay draw. I think the slowness of Cantlay is going to drive him demented.
I think so too. Similarly, the slowness of Bryson is going to drive Pavon demented.
Cantlay's not just slow; it's like obnoxious. You know what I mean? It's like 3
superiority complex.
Oh, and like the complete disdain for everybody around him, like I know that me taking this long is probably pissing you off, and I don't care at all. And I can't relate to somebody like that. Like I'd sooner sabotage my US Open chances than hurry up. You know what I mean? And I think Rory is sort of in that vein too. He's conscientious in many ways, like the odd exception, 2014 final round PGA. So I just think that whole fucking thing, and Le Cava there. Hang on. Look, there's just to finish the point. There's obviously the hope, as I said at the start, that he gets so peeved off at that, and you would hope at this stage he has the maturity to know this is going to be painfully slow.
Yeah.
So you need to walk slower. You need to take toilet breaks. You need to go somewhere, and I hope whether he writes into a journal in the morning of the round or does you're going to have to get yourself into a mindset, and you hope he's experienced enough to do it, or someone says to him, you need to already plan for, where am I going in my head when this guy is behaving horrifically on the greens in terms of pace of play? What am I doing? Am I thinking of being on a sunny beach and going somewhere fun and checking out that way? Or am I just going over my own routine? I can't be looking at him going, fuck man, just put the ball, it's 4 feet, and that's, I'm because sometimes you watch Rory on a green and like he's a lot of miles on the clock. He spent a lot of his life, Pete, I'd say you can attest to it, a lot of his life waiting for people to put, and it's slow. And so I'm going to be watching him on the greens. Is he doing that thing where he's like almost with his body language looking around, trying to almost let his partner know you're being a bit slow here? You want to see him in a good spot, whether it's over, having a drink at the bag, Harry, all that kind of stuff. So like it's going to be fascinating to watch, and in perfect kind of sports radio fashion, we'll be able to explain it all, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent tomorrow or Tuesday. My hunch is, like I said, 400 is not terrible. I think Bryson just looks so good. That's kind of my hunch. I think Bryson runs away with it, and it's not the doomsday scenario Nathan painted, which would be doomsday of Bryson comes back into the pack and Cantlay or Pavon wins the US Open from the same starting point as Rory. That's the one you're like, have some more scar tissue.
The one point I was going to bring up was, like you said, Rory's conscientious. I mean, he clearly is, but all these guys at the elite level, every single one of them plays to the pace that suits them. Every one of them. They're not like, nobody's teeing it up worrying about the guy you're playing. Oh, am I going to slow him down? No, nobody does ever. That's the nature of it. And like Cantlay is painfully slow. I don't know that I characterize it as contemptuous to anybody. It's just, I think Cantlay plays that slow because that's...
Sorry to interrupt. I think it is when you've been spoken to about it by lots of people and you're not doing anything to address it. I think if more than 4 people let you know over the years, you're really slow and you don't do anything to improve that, I think it moves into contemptuous category.
But Bryson's slow. Bryson's a slow player.
Yeah.
No, I'm not as slow as Cantlay. I'm sorry. I'm not suggesting that Cantlay could do something to pick it up. But whatever it is, that's how he plays. And I'm saying is that like the idea that somehow there are two kinds of players. So the players who couldn't care less about anybody else and the players who do care about everybody else. I don't buy that. I don't believe that any player really ultimately to survive and thrive at that elite level, the only person they care about is themselves. And that's fine.
I agreed.
Yeah. So my point is that Rory has a lovely pace of play, plays relatively quickly. And then there's a bunch of others that don't. And it is ever thus. And as you said, and you're correct, Rory has been around a long, long time. So surely to God, he has learned how to deal with a player who's playing at a far slower pace than he would like.
I do think there's a difference with Cantlay. I think, as you say, Bryson is slow, but Cantlay just does his own thing with no thought for anybody else. I always, even when we're talking about Cantlay with regards to the advisory board and Liv and how he's put himself in this massive position of power, and it just doesn't equate with what we've ever seen of Patrick Cantlay, that he could have that sort of influence. I always go back to that memorial when he was in with Morikawa and it starts pissing down rain. And he basically just refused to play on because it was a bit of rain. He would not take his shot and said, "I'm just going to wait. I'm not playing this shot." And it was rain. The hooter hadn't blown. He brought the rules official over and was, "I'm just going to wait 10 minutes here." And that's him. He'll do whatever the hell he wants, whatever he feels he needs to do. But look, if we're talking about bottlers, Cantlay's never delivered in a major. Like just even getting himself in this position feels like a rarity.
He's had one top 5 and 28 career starts. That's a really poor return for his ability.
However, Rory's sleeping tonight. Cantlay is having a difficult night's sleep last night as well. He doesn't know what this is like the way Rory does.
Yeah, Pete, why don't you give us
that good or bad?
Apologies, Nathan. Why don't you round off that general point on the Cantlay Rory situation and where you are in it then, or anything we've said that you agree strongly with? Or disagree with?
What I would say is, if I was in Rory's camp, I would definitely have a talk to myself or have a procedure to go through for today. Of what to do. If this happens, I'm going to do that. If that happens, I'm going to do that. They're going to have to shake hands on the first tee. They're going to have to be friendly. And I think, they're past what happened at the Ryder Cup, to be honest with you. That's really not in Rory's mind right now. I think he just needs to see, right, Patrick is going to be exceptionally slow. What am I going to do to entertain myself when he's doing that? Am I going to watch his shots?
Yeah.
Sometimes, maybe there's probably no point. Am I just going to play my game in my bubble and not even say a word? Maybe that's possibly the best thing to do. Not even say good shot. Not even say whatever. Shake his hand on the first tee. Good luck. Shake his hand on 18. Hard luck. Whatever. But that's the last you talk to him. That's the last you see of him. That's the last, I'm just in a bubble. I'm going to look around. I'm going to talk to Harry. To me, that's what, if I was caddying for him, that's the conversation I'd be having before we go out today. What's our plan? How are we going to deal with this person in particular? Because I think, as I said to you, Rory is affected by too many times by outside influence. It's not his own game. It's what's going on around him influences how he does.
Peter, who was the guy who said, "Oh, do you want to play the loneliest round of golf ever? Play around with Nick Faldo, who just didn't speak to anybody ever." He's like, there's golfers who just.
Yeah, there is, and it's funny, I would be uncomfortable doing that in my own thing. Like, I'll give you a small example. I said to each guy I played with last week in Greece, I said, "I'm not going to be smart here. I'm not going to try but I mightn't see your shot. And if I don't see your shot, I'm not being rude by saying not good shot or hard look or whatever. I just said I just won't be able to see it. So unfortunately, don't get annoyed if I don't say good shot." And that's the type of person I am.
Yeah.
But Aldo was the type of person who just, blankety blank, did his own thing, walked a different side of the fairway. And to be honest with you, maybe Rory needs to do that tonight.
Conversely, Lee Trevino always said that he could get into Nicholas's head because Lee Trevino was a chatter and he would talk and talk and talk, and it would drive Nicholas crazy because Nicholas was not a talker on the course. So, there's always that tactic as well.
There's a benefit in having Harry there on a day like today. It's a close relationship. I mean, before we go too much into good guy, bad guy, you could argue Rory escalated things by calling Cantley a dick publicly. I mean, that's an escalation.
Yeah.
We got to wrap this up. By the way, sorry, I just realized we never even talked to you about Greece. For God's sake.
Yeah.
We'll do it again another time. Sean Doran says, "What about Shane? A little love, please." We'll do that. Let's reflect tomorrow because we can't be here all day. By the way, so I was about to say, I have my own open. I say again.
I said I have to go prepare for my own open.
Wow, listen, and you're playing with a couple of hot shots on Tuesday. You know what I mean? We'll show you the ropes.
Yeah.
Young Tom McKibben out with Scotty later, says David Burke. I didn't realize. Nice. By the way, USGA. Say again.
He held a great putt on Friday to make the cut on the mark.
Oh, wow. Did he?
Almost like Francesco Molinari.
Oh, well, how good was that? The USGA app, quietly underrated. Ala the Masters has every shot in exactly the same way. So, I mean, what do we got to be with AI or whatever the hell's coming 3 years away from every single PGA Tour event having that? You'd hope, wouldn't you?
You would think so.
We're 3 years away from walking down the fairway as they're taking the shots.
Well, I mean, I like, how good is sports watching going to be in 20 years' time, 10 years' time? Okay, I am thinking Rory to do just fine, around a 70, 69, 71, that territory. Bryson to shoot 2 under, win this tournament comfortably is my sense.
Retief Goosen was 3 shots clear in 2005. Shot 81.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Michael Campbell gave a lovely interview at the start of the week where he said a bunch of guys came up to him and he said there was a look in their eye as if to say, having played this place and you beat Tiger here, you were good. Getting respect from all the youngsters. It was nice.
Campbell was 4 shots back.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, listen, who can predict if Bryson has a triple bogey? I mean, it could happen any second. That's the intrigue. Nathan, give us your specific prediction.
Specific prediction. I think Rory will beat. Let's go with a playoff. Rory to win a playoff. You said specific.
That's a nice shout, Nathan. I like that.
Well, listen, I'll watch that.
Yeah. So there, in the history of the US Open, 17 times has a leader gone into the final round with a 3-shot cushion, and only 9 times have they gone on to win. So not quite 50-50, but they're thereabouts, as we all know. Interestingly, the 13th is going to be different today. They're going to pull the tee box up. They're going to entice the drive, and they're putting the flag mid-center, so it won't be tucked in right. So it's definitely going to be a different hole today. They're going to. So I wonder, will the guys who can hit it, are going to take it on? I have a feeling that Bryson will. It's inviting, but look, for me, just the stats so far. I mean, the past is hardly an indicator of the present, but 50-50, I think Bryson's going to win as much, but I like Nathan's one a lot. I like that one, but I still think Bryson will.
McIlroy to beat Matsuyama in the playoff.
Although, mind you, sorry, Joe, you punted for Matsuyama the other day.
It was a hell of a tip, if I do say so. Thank you very much.
Mine one was Morikawa, who shot 4 under, had the best round yesterday, but I think he's way too far. He's level, so there's not a chance.
Yeah, I won't name who said it on Sky, but there was a chip on Thursday where Matsuyama didn't have a great chip, and this person on Sky said, "Yeah, short game, just lets him down time and time again." And I thought, well, that's absolute bullshit. You're not watching Matsuyama very closely, but I won't name and shame them, Peter.
I do, Joe.
No. Right, go on then, Pete. Final word to you. What is going to happen tonight so that we don't need to watch it? Tell us exactly.
Bryson shoots 68 and wins by a shot.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah. I still like Nathan's. I want Nathan's one.
We all like Nathan.
Yeah.
We'll all take that.
Yeah.
All righty, fellas. Well, enjoy. There's in terms of a review pod, we're Nathan's in Germany at the Euros. Fionn, Peter and I are at Sea Point on Tuesday. So there's talk of maybe us postponing our Monday review and doing the Monday review on Tuesday. I phoned Gary Murphy to see if he's around. He would join us as well.
Oh,
so
brilliant.
we could have like an in-person US Open review and also chat a little bit about you guys, how you got on in Greece and that kind of stuff. So I don't know, we'll do one or the other. We might still do just a normal review pod tomorrow, maybe. Does anyone have a preference? What you want to do?
I like the Sea Point in-person review pod. It's more.
I like the idea of it, but then the recording of it and the sending of it by laptop it will fall on me, and this is dangerous territory.
You've just played a 4.5 hour round of golf.
Yeah,
well,
5 hour round of golf.
5 hour round of golf.
We're teeing off at 2, so I think it would be can we all get there at 11:30?
Yeah,
and record it for 45
Let's see. If Rory wins, I think we'll have to go tomorrow.
Yeah.
Are you flying out tomorrow? What's your deal?
We'll find a spot. I'll find a spot at some stage. I'm flying out at 6 o'clock in the morning, so.
All right. Okay. If we're here tomorrow, we're here tomorrow. If not, we'll try Tuesday.
Well said, Joe. Well said.
Just to clear that up.
Right.
All right. That's us done. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.